They can take your words out of context, but they can't distort your silence. Silence isn't weakness, it's where your real power begins. In a world that constantly demands your explanation, your reaction, your side of the story, have you ever noticed how exhausting it is to keep defending yourself? The more you try to clarify, the more people seem to twist your words. The more you react, the more control you give away. It's as if your energy becomes the fuel for someone else's narrative, and you're left drained, unheard, and misunderstood. But something changes the moment you stop. When you no longer chase clarity from others, when you stop reacting to every insult or misjudgment, you reclaim something far more important: your presence, your peace, your authority over your own mind. This isn't about being passive or weak. It's about recognizing that not every battle deserves your energy. Some fights only escalate because you showed up. And sometimes silence is not retreat, it's elevation. Think about it. When a storm passes, the mountain doesn't explain why it stood still. It simply remains, unchanged, unmoved, powerful in its silence. That's what real strength looks like. Because truth doesn't need to shout, it endures. And karma, quiet but persistent, has a way of bringing everything full circle. Without your help, without your words, without your need for revenge. I've seen it time and time again. The person who resists the urge to react becomes the one who holds the real power in the room. Not because they're indifferent, but because they've mastered the art of discernment, of knowing what deserves their voice and what simply doesn't. Their silence isn't empty. It's full of self-respect, of clarity, of trust in time. And here's something we often forget. When you stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, you make space for something better. Understanding from those who actually care. You create space for truth to breathe. You allow energy to return to you instead of being drained by noise that was never yours to carry. So the next time you're tempted to explain yourself, to prove your worth, to set the record straight, pause. Take a breath. Remember that silence is not the absence of strength. It's the presence of control. And in that stillness, something remarkable happens. The truth starts doing the talking for you. Sign 1. When they play the victim. The more you defend yourself, the more you look like the villain, and that's exactly what they want. There's a certain kind of person who never takes responsibility. When things go wrong, they twist the story. They cry at the right moments, raise their voice at the right time, and leave out just enough facts to make themselves look like the victim, and you, the enemy. And the more you try to explain, the deeper you sink into their narrative. Have you ever been in a situation like that? You bring facts. You clarify with logic. You try to reason, but nothing works. In fact, the harder you try to clear your name, the more people believe you're hiding something. That's the trap. And the person playing the victim, they're not interested in truth. They're interested in control, controlling how others see them and how others see you. This is where silence becomes your greatest ally, because people who manipulate through victimhood thrive on attention. They crave an audience. But when you go quiet, when you stop reacting, you take away the spotlight they feed on. Eventually, the performance loses its power. The story doesn't stick. Why? Because truth has a funny way of revealing itself over time. Patterns emerge. The same person starts playing the victim again and again with different people in different settings. And slowly, those around them begin to notice. I once knew someone like this, a coworker who constantly stirred up drama and then cried about being misunderstood. At first, I tried to clear things up, thinking the truth would fix it, but it only gave them more material. So one day I stopped. No explanations, no defense, just silence. And over time, others began to see what I saw. The cracks in their stories, the patterns in their behavior. I didn't have to prove anything. Their actions did the work for me. This doesn't mean you tolerate injustice or stay silent out of fear. It means you choose your peace over pointless battles. You stop giving energy to people who don't deserve access to you. When someone constantly plays the victim, let them tell their version, let them perform, but don't join the stage. Eventually, every act wears thin, and when it does, you'll still have your dignity, your clarity, and your truth. Because silence isn't retreat, it's strategy, it's restraint, and most of all, it's power. Sign 2. When they succeed through dishonesty, not all success is built on hard work. Some of it is borrowed, stolen, or manipulated. But that doesn't mean you should chase it, the symbol. There will always be people who seem to rise faster than you, people who cut corners, tell half-truths, or step on others to get ahead. And from the outside, it looks like they're winning. They gain recognition, money, even admiration. And you're left wondering, why am I doing it the right way if the wrong way works so well for them? That question is honest. It's human, but it's also dangerous. Because the moment you start comparing your journey to theirs, you lose sight of what truly matters, your integrity. And here's the truth. Just because something is shiny doesn't mean it's solid. There's a big difference between short-term applause and long-term respect, between manipulation and mastery, between surface-level success and the kind of fulfillment that can't be faked. I remember working with someone years ago who always seemed to be 2 steps ahead. They had the charm, the shortcuts, the strategic friendships. Meanwhile, I was focused on doing things thoroughly, honestly, and with care. For a while, I felt invisible, until the foundation of their success began to crack. Missed deadlines, broken trust, burned bridges. And just like that, the illusion collapsed. Because no matter how far someone climbs through deception, there's always a cost waiting at the top. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." And the person who cheats their way forward is never really full. They're always hungry for the next advantage because deep down, they know it's not real. They know it can all disappear just as quickly as it came. So what do you do when others succeed through dishonesty? You stay grounded. You stay focused. You keep building, quietly, steadily, honestly, because the success that comes from character, from consistency, from conscience, that's the kind that lasts. That's the kind that doesn't vanish when the spotlight moves on. Let them chase the quick wins. Let them climb fast. But you climb right. And when the dust settles, when the noise fades, what you've built will still be standing. Because it wasn't built to impress. It was built to endure. That's not just success. That's self-respect. And that's something no one can fake or take. Sign 3. When you're insulted, every insult is a trap, and your reaction is the prize. At some point in life, someone will try to provoke you. It could be a snide remark, a sarcastic comment, or a passive-aggressive jab. And the moment it hits, your body reacts, your chest tightens, your pride flares up, and every fiber of you wants to strike back. You want to say something sharp, something clever, something that shows you're not weak. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The moment you react, you lose. Not because you're wrong, but because you let them pull you into their arena, an arena where emotion rules over reason. Insults are rarely about truth, they're about control. The person throwing them isn't seeking dialogue or clarity, they're fishing for power. And what gives them that power isn't the insult itself, it's your reaction. The more offended you are, the more validated they feel. The more you try to prove them wrong, the more you affirm that their words carry weight. But when you remain calm, when you refuse to flinch, when you let their comment fall flat without giving it oxygen, that's when you shift the dynamic completely. I once witnessed a colleague get insulted in front of an entire team. The room went silent, everyone bracing for conflict. But instead of reacting, he simply looked at the person, smiled faintly, and moved on with the meeting like nothing happened. That silence spoke louder than any comeback ever could. The insulter was left exposed, awkward, powerless. Why? Because the power they tried to steal was never handed to them. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And that wisdom still holds. When someone stoops low, don't join them. Rise above, not in arrogance, but in control. Your composure is your strength. Your silence is your statement. Not because you're afraid to speak, but because some things aren't worth your breath. So the next time someone insults you, remember this. The strongest person in the room isn't the one who speaks the loudest. It's the one who refuses to let another person dictate their state of mind. Don't give them the satisfaction of a reaction. Let your stillness say everything. Because in a world addicted to outrage, your peace becomes your rebellion and your real power. Sign 4. When they spread lies about you, when someone lies about you, your silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. There's nothing more frustrating than being the target of a lie. It strikes deep, especially when the person spreading it smiles to your face and whispers behind your back. Your first instinct is to fight back, to defend yourself, to clear your name before the story takes root. But here's the hard truth. Fighting lies often makes them grow. Not because the lie is stronger than the truth, but because your reaction becomes part of the spectacle. Liars don't care about facts. They care about attention. They want you rattled. They want you emotional. And they thrive on the energy you give them. The more you try to correct the story, the more it looks like there's something to hide. Even if what you're saying is true, people start focusing on your reaction, not the facts. And in that moment, the lie wins, not by being believable, but by being disruptive. I remember someone once spread a false rumor about a friend of mine at work. It was subtle at first, just a whisper here, a suggestion there. At first, he wanted to explain himself to everyone, to sit people down and walk them through the truth. But instead, he did something harder. He stayed silent. He kept doing his work, kept showing up with integrity, and let time do what arguments couldn't. Weeks later, the truth surfaced. The person who lied had a history of manipulating others, and those who had quietly believed the lie, they had to reckon with their own misjudgment. The Stoics taught that you can't control what others say, but you can control what you respond to. And not every fire is worth putting out. Some burn out on their own when you stop feeding them. When you let truth speak through your actions, not your explanations. So if someone lies about you, resist the urge to react. Let them talk. Let them spin. Lies have short lives. Truth doesn't rush. It endures. And over time, people see what's real and what isn't. You don't need to scream your innocence. Let your consistency do the work. Because reputation isn't built in noise. It's built in silence, in time, and in the strength of knowing who you are, even when others don't. In a world loud with accusations, staying calm isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And sometimes the most powerful way to defend the truth is to let it reveal itself. Sign 5. When they copy you to compete. When someone copies you, don't get bitter, get better, because the original always outlasts the imitation. There's a quiet kind of betrayal that doesn't always show up as an insult or a lie. It shows up as imitation. Someone starts dressing like you, talking like you, creating like you. At first, it feels flattering, then uncomfortable, then downright frustrating. You spend years building something, your style, your work, your voice, and suddenly someone comes along and mimics it, hoping to ride the wave you created. The natural urge is to call them out, to expose them, to demand credit. But here's the truth most people overlook. You don't need to prove who did it first. You only need to keep showing why no one does it like you. Because what they're copying is the surface, the visible layer. They can imitate your tone, your content, your delivery, but they can't duplicate the soul behind it. They don't have your story, your struggles, your evolution. And that's something you can't download or rehearse. I've seen it happen in every field, from artists to entrepreneurs, from writers to leaders. The imitators often rise quickly, gaining attention by mirroring someone else's light. But over time, the audience starts to feel the difference. Because imitation doesn't breathe, it doesn't grow, it repeats. And repetition without heart always falls flat. The Stoics believe that what makes you powerful is not what you possess, but what you embody. That inner core, the quiet fire, the values you live by even when no one is watching, that's what sets you apart. And that's exactly what a copycat can never steal. So when someone starts copying you, don't waste your energy chasing them. Put that energy into evolving, into deepening your craft, into growing beyond what they're trying to catch up to. Let them follow your past while you keep walking toward your future. Because at the end of the day, the real test isn't who did it first. It's who keeps doing it when no one's clapping. Who keeps creating even when no one's copying. You don't need to rush to defend your originality. Just keep being it. Keep being so deeply rooted in who you are that no imitation can compete. The world may not always notice who started the wave, but it always remembers who turned it into a tide. So be the tide and let the echoes fade behind you. Sign 6. When you're betrayed, betrayal doesn't need a dramatic ending. Just your silence and the strength to walk away. Few things in life cut deeper than betrayal. It's not just the act itself, it's the disappointment, the disbelief, the gut punch of realizing someone you trusted has already decided you're worth hurting. And when it happens, the instinct is to confront, to demand an explanation, to make them see what they did to you. But here's a truth that's hard to swallow. If they were willing to betray you, they've already justified it in their mind. You could lay out every fact, you could replay every moment, but it won't change anything because betrayal isn't born from misunderstanding. It's born from choice. And when someone chooses to betray you, it's not clarity they're missing, it's conscience. They've rewritten the story to make themselves the victim, or worse, to feel nothing at all. So your words, they won't land. They'll be twisted, dismissed, or weaponized against you. That's why silence isn't cowardice in the face of betrayal. It's wisdom. It's restraint. It's choosing your peace over a pointless performance. When someone shows you who they truly are, you don't need to argue with them about it. You simply stop giving them front row seats to your life. I've seen this play out. A close friend betrayed someone I deeply respect, broke their trust, shared private things, acted in ways that couldn't be undone. But instead of lashing out, instead of making it a scene, they did something more powerful. They walked away. No explanations, no last words, just quiet dignity. And that silence said everything. It wasn't weakness, it was strength under control. Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Betrayal is one of those trials. Painful, yes, but also revealing. It shows you who someone really is. But more importantly, it shows you who you are. And when you handle it with grace instead of fury, you prove that their actions didn't define you, your response did. So if someone has betrayed you, remember this: you didn't lose them. They lost you. They lost someone loyal, honest, and real. And they won't find that again in the mirror. You don't need to make them understand. You don't need closure through conflict. You just need to keep walking with your head held high and your silence as your armor. That's not giving up. That's leveling up. Sign 7, when your worth is overlooked. If they can't see your worth while you're present, let your absence do the talking. There comes a point in every relationship, personal or professional, when you realize something unsettling. You're giving, showing up, offering value, and yet you are invisible. It's subtle at first. People stop saying thank you. They assume you'll always be there. They treat your consistency like background noise, useful but forgettable. And the more you try to prove your worth, the less they seem to notice. Wow. Because effort, when not reciprocated, becomes expectation. And here's the painful truth. The more you chase recognition, the less they respect you. The more you try to explain your value, the more they take it for granted. People don't cherish what feels guaranteed. They don't notice what they think they'll never lose. But the moment you pull back, the moment your presence becomes absence, that's when clarity arrives. I once knew a man named Jake. He was the kind of friend everyone leaned on. The one who checked in, the one who made plans, the one who remembered birthdays and followed through on promises. But after years of showing up, he realized something. If he stopped calling, no one called. If he didn't check in, silence followed. That's when he stopped trying. No anger, no dramatic exit, just stillness. And the result? The people who truly valued him reached out. The ones who didn't vanished. And that told him everything he needed to know. Seneca once said, "Time discovers truth." And sometimes the truth is found not in your presence, but in your absence. Because stepping back isn't weakness, it's clarity. It's the quiet act of letting others reveal who they really are when you're no longer pouring into them. So if you're feeling undervalued, stop talking, stop proving, stop chasing. Let the silence speak. Let the distance do the sorting. The people who genuinely care will notice. They'll adjust, they'll return. The rest, let them go. You're not here to convince anyone to see your worth. You're here to embody it. And if they can't recognize that while you're near, they don't deserve the gift of your presence at all. In the end, value doesn't need to shout. It just needs to walk away long enough for people to feel the difference. Let them feel it. Let them remember what they ignored. That's not revenge. That's self-respect. And that kind of silence, it echoes louder than words ever could. Sign 8. When they try to provoke you. When someone tries to provoke you, remember, your reaction is their reward. There are people out there who don't want peace. They want chaos, but only if it comes from you. They poke, prod, and push your buttons, not because they're seeking resolution, but because they feed off the moment you lose control. It's not about finding common ground. It's about getting under your skin. And the truth is, they don't even need to win the argument. All they want is for you to explode. But here's the thing, you don't owe anyone your peace. Not everyone deserves your energy, and not every attack deserves your attention. Because sometimes the greatest form of power isn't loud. It's still. It's the calm in the middle of someone else's storm. It's standing firm while they unravel. That's the kind of strength they can't touch, no matter how hard they try. I once watched a colleague, Adam, handle this with grace. There was someone in the office who loved stirring the pot. In meetings, he'd throw little jabs, undermining comments disguised as jokes. Most people would bite. They'd defend, argue, escalate. But Adam, he didn't play that game. He'd nod, maybe smile slightly, and then return to the point at hand. And eventually, the provocateur lost interest. Because without a reaction, the performance had no stage. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's Stoic wisdom in action. You can't stop people from being petty, toxic, or provocative, but you can choose whether or not to hand them the keys to your emotions. So the next time someone tries to bait you, online, at work, even within your own family, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Is this about truth or just control? If it's the latter, walk away internally, even if you're still in the room. Because the strongest person isn't the one who dominates the conversation. It's the one who doesn't let outside noise shake their inner clarity. Let your calm be unsettling. Let your silence be unsettling. Because when you stop reacting, you start controlling the moment. And that, right there, is the power they were trying to take from you in the first place. Don't give it away. Hold it. Protect it. Own it. Sign 9. When they regret losing you. If they only realize your worth after you're gone, let the silence be your answer. There's a moment, always late, when someone who took you for granted begins to wake up. It usually comes quietly, a pause in their routine, a day when they look around and notice your absence like an echo that won't fade. That's when the regret sets in. But by then, it's no longer your burden to carry, because true appreciation doesn't arrive after the damage is done. It shows up when it matters most, when you're still there. Many people don't recognize the value of presence. They assume availability means permanence, that your patience means you'll always wait, that your love means they can treat you carelessly and you'll stay anyway. But that's not strength, that's misuse. And eventually, even the strongest heart reaches a quiet breaking point where words are no longer needed. And your exit speaks louder than any explanation ever could. I remember someone I once knew, let's call her Olivia. She gave everything to her relationship. Support, loyalty, time. She didn't ask for much in return, just basic respect and honesty. But her partner never saw it. Not really. He thought she'd always be there until one day she wasn't. No arguments, no warnings, just silence. And in that silence, he finally saw the weight of what he'd lost. But by then, Olivia had already found peace elsewhere. Her decision was final. Her absence, unshakable. As Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. And sometimes being the master of your own life means walking away from those who only see your worth in hindsight. You don't owe them a return. You don't owe them closure. Their lesson is not your responsibility. So if someone regrets losing you, let them. Let them sit with it. Let them learn the cost of taking something real for granted. You don't need to make them feel better. You don't need to make them understand. Because your silence, your absence, your choice to stay gone, that is the understanding. Not everyone who misses you deserves a second chance. And not every apology deserves a response. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Walk on, without drama, without noise, just calm, clear distance. Because the right people won't need to lose you to value you, and the wrong ones, they were never meant to stay. You don't need to speak to prove your worth. Sometimes silence says everything. We live in a world that rewards noise. Everyone wants to have the last word, to be heard, to make a point loud enough that no one can ignore it. But real wisdom, the kind that lasts, is quiet. It doesn't need attention. It doesn't need validation. It simply is. And sometimes the most powerful thing you could do is say nothing at all. Not because you're weak, not because you're afraid, but because you've outgrown the need to explain yourself to those who never really listened in the first place. The people who truly see you don't need a justification, and the people who constantly doubt you, they've already made their choice. No amount of proof will change their mind, because they weren't looking for truth. They were looking for control. When you learn to be still in the face of misunderstanding, when you choose calm over chaos, when you stop defending what was never up for debate, you reclaim your peace. And more importantly, you reclaim your power. Because silence isn't absence. It's presence without noise. It's confidence without arrogance. It's truth that doesn't need an audience. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." And the subject is you. Only you know your values, only you know your path, and only you get to decide who is worthy of your energy. So the next time you feel the urge to explain, to defend, to prove, pause. Ask yourself, is this silence protecting my peace? Or is my voice chasing someone who's already made up their mind? If it's the latter, let go. Walk away, not in anger but in wisdom. That's not giving up. It's leveling up, because silence, when rooted in self-respect, is not empty. It's full of clarity, full of boundaries, full of strength. Let it speak for you. Let your calm presence echo louder than 1,000 justifications. Let your stillness be the final word. And if this message spoke to something in you, take a moment to reflect on how often you've traded your peace for someone's attention. Then consider making a different choice. If you'd like more insights like this, subscribe to the channel. We're building a space for quiet strength, thoughtful growth, and the kind of wisdom that doesn't need to shout.